Now, I have a very special guest. For those of you guys that love sales, you're going to want to stick around till the end on this one. I have a special guest named Dwayne Plapp. It's Matt Plapp's father. If anybody knows Matt Plapp out there, this gentleman's been selling since 1969. That's 50 years, 5 decades of sales knowledge. This guy's seen it all, been through it all, from the traditional to now the digital age. Because I see him running a successful Facebook group and a course. And I'm so glad to take his time here, and we're going to dive into some intense sales questions here, and see if we can get some knowledge from Mr. Plapp here. So thank you for spending some time today.
Man, my pleasure. This is fantastic.
Cool.
Whenever I
Why don't
can
you
help,
give
I
us?
love to help.
Oh, awesome. I see the weather out there looks a little bit cold too.
Yeah, it is. Actually, it snowed last night, but it melted as it was snowing. I came back from an event last night, and all of a sudden it was a blizzard. You couldn't even see where you were going, so we had to slow down. But the time we got home, it had stopped snowing, and when we got home, there was no snow on the ground anymore. I mean, it melted as fast as it came down.
Well, if you need a place to warm up, I'm in California.
Yeah, who didn't know that? Nice sky.
Anyways, why don't you give us a little bit of a background on like what you've done and what you've sold in the past?
Well, I started out in 1969. I was selling for a company called Valspar Paint out of Rockford, Illinois at the time. Then they got bought out and went to Minneapolis. I worked for them for about 3, maybe almost 4 years selling. I left them in 72 to get in the insurance business, and I spent until 1991 in the insurance business. I owned an insurance agency, sold it, and kind of retired or semi-retired. And then at Thanksgiving the next year, my sons were selling it. Dad, you can't retire. We need to go do something. So we got into the retail business, and we owned a uh, fairly good size RV and boat dealership. And then I retired in '08, and then got bored sitting at home doing nothing, and started doing some sales coaching. And now I've been doing that for about 12, about ever since '09. So almost this is my 11th year.
That's awesome. And guys, whoever's going to be watching this, whatever platform you're on, whether it's Facebook or YouTube, smash the like button or drop a comment when you hear something of value that you like, and any key takeaways that you guys hear throughout this video presentation we're about to go through. So I'm going to dive into some questions here, and then I got a bunch of questions from my Facebook posts from other people that we'll get into as well. But I want to start off with one of the most important things that I get feedback or I get questions on every single day is qualifying prospects, because like salespeople get emotional, they get attached to something, and they're talking to somebody, and then an hour later they realize, you know what, this person wasn't even the right fit, they couldn't afford it, or they weren't even interested. They were being polite, listening through possible presentation. How do people qualify prospects so they don't waste their time or also get emotionally connected to a deal?
Well, qualifying prospects, one of the things that I always tell people is that the easiest way to qualify a prospect is to let them talk. If you let them talk, they will tell you whether they're a qualified prospect or not by what they say to you. And what the problem with most sales guys is that they're so busy trying to sell, they don't ever pay attention to listening. The key to the thing is whenever you go to a networking event, or if you're out and about, or you're talking to somebody, or you made a cold call, or whatever the case may be, get them talking. If you get them talking and you ask the right pertinent questions, okay, you then can find out exactly whether they're a good prospect or not. And one of the things I always say in a lot of my speeches is that how fast can you qualify somebody? How fast can you evaluate the person you're talking to? In a perfect example, I'm talking to a client a couple of weeks ago, and when we're talking about this guy, and yes, I said, well, is he a qualified prospect? He goes, what do you mean? I said, well, is he a qualified prospect? I said, well, who did the talking? Well, I spent the entire time telling him who I was. Who cares? It's whether or not he's a qualified prospect, not whether he's a qualified, whether he wants to be your best friend. It's, is he a qualified prospect? And the 5 things, and the 5 things that I always tell people is this: there's 5 things in determining whether that guy's a prospect or not. One, okay, does he need what you sell? Two, has he any interest in solving that need? Three, can he afford what you're selling? Four, okay, when's he plan on buying? And five is whom's he plan on buying it from? And you've got to satisfy the first three before he even becomes a prospect. Otherwise, he's a suspect. The first three is he's got to be able to have a need for what you're selling, and he's got to have an interest in satisfying that need, and he's got to be able to afford it. The other two you can create, okay? But the first three, he's got to be there. And the key to the thing is why national television and why social media and all these other things as far as marketing is so important is they sometimes create that need, and then they create the situation where you have to satisfy it. But it still comes down to one thing: can you afford it? Okay. But the thing is, if you're going to a prospect and you're at a networking event or you stopped in some guy's business or whatever, you've got to sit there and let him talk, because he's going to tell you whether he's got a need. And you can create the need, but you've got to let him talk so you have the opportunity to do that. Because most people will walk right into everything. They will talk themselves into everything by simply letting them talk. But the problem with most salespeople is they don't let people talk. They simply do all the talking.
What's a couple questions to get like the qualifying started that you recommend to your students?
Well, one of the first things, and I actually, I'm going to answer the one question the one girl had on Facebook last night,
Sure.
and that is, we're going to discount the thing. Baloney. Okay. What I always, when people bring it up, I say, okay, let me ask you a question. Does everybody in the room have an iPhone? Yeah. Did they discount it? No. Okay. I'll never forget the day that that my kids, I didn't buy one. Matt and Sam, we were in Las Vegas for a show back in 2005 or 4, whatever it was. And we're in Las Vegas. We're at Caesar's Palace. And all of a sudden, the iPhone's coming out. The next morning, okay, Matt and Sam tell me, Dad, we got to go buy an iPhone. I go, what the hell's an iPhone? Okay, well, you got these little flip jobs. Hell, that's good enough. No, we got to have an iPhone. It's a brand new thing. It's good enough. No, we got to have an iPhone and we're at Season Up. No, we got to have an iPhone in the mall area at Sears. There's a line. I mean, I swear to God, there must be 1,000 people in this line. So I said, fine. I said, I'm going to get a massage while you guys go get in line. Here's my credit card. They spent $800 a piece for these cell phones. Guess what? It's the highest priced cell phone in America. Did they discount? Hell no, they couldn't get rid of them fast enough. Mm-hmm. If you got something, you're doing a phenomenal job of selling it, okay? And they really want it, why you discount? A phenomenal job of selling it. I always tell people do add-ons. So I'll give you an example. So say I'm selling boats like we did. Mm-hmm. I want to buy this boat. Am I going to discount it? No. What I may probably do is maybe throw in a depth finder, okay, or something like that. But I'm not changing the price of my boat. I'm giving you something in added, which I've already given. I can already do. I coached a lady that did for a while. For about 2 years, I coached a company that did hairstyling. Okay, it was a beauty parlor, and we coached them. And she said, "Should I discount if you bring me a referral? Should I give you a discount?" So why would you want to change the income you're going to already make? Give them something that they're not paying for. So tell you what, if you give me a referral, I'm going to give you a facial. Okay, or I'm going to give you a manicure, something that's not costing me anything. Now all of a sudden you get that manicure or you get that facial. Next time you come in and go, by the way, that facial was fantastic. I got to do that again. So now you've increased your business. I didn't discount nothing. The discount should be a last resort. And if you got to discount your program, you're telling the client, hey, my product or service isn't worth what I think it is.
It's a good point.
And the other thing too is this: the next time they want to buy something, they want the discount again, because they got it the first time. So you never want to do that. But in qualifying that prospect, okay, you got to get away from giving things away. And what you got to do is you got to let them talk. And one of the easiest ways to do this, okay, what you mentioned, what are the things I want to say, okay? Well, in our retail store, what we wanted to do is if you came into our store and you were looking at a boat, well, we had a rule. You couldn't talk to the customer until you touched 3 boats or touched the same boat 3 times. Why? First boat, he's just curious. What the hell is it? Second thing, okay, he's now going, what's in it? What's it all about? The third thing, when he touches it, he's telling you basically, I could use some help. Now at the third touch. So now you can go talk to him. Now, when you go talk to them, what you want to do is you want to get them talking. So the best way to get them talking, we used to say was, hey, now, and we didn't use what I call standard stupid lines, like, what brings you in here today? Who cares? Okay. Our line was, where did you go boating last? If I'm touching a boat, I've probably been boating, or I wish I was going boating. So where'd you go boating with? Okay. It's a question which creates a sentence answer, not a one word answer. So now he's going to tell me where he went boating with. Now, his answer then gives me 5 or 6 answers to 5 or 6 questions I'm going to ask him down the road. One is if he tells me, if I say, where'd you go boating last? In our situation, we were in Florence, Kentucky. So if he said, I went to boating in Cumberland, I went with my friend, okay? That tells me, one, he went boating, and he doesn't go boating very often, and he went with his friend. It means he doesn't own a boat, okay? And if he went with his wife and kids, okay, guess what? He's probably buying a pleasure boat. Okay, now if I go down and say I went boating and we go down there all the time and we really like the one falls, now I know you got your own boat and you're down there all the time and you're trading a boat in. So now I know you're going to trade a boat in to buy a boat. So by how you answer that question gives me all the next things I'm going to ask you. Now if he comes in with his wife and kid and he's touching the boat and we're talking to him and I ask him where he went boating last time and he starts talking, guess who's buying the boat? Not him, his wife is, okay? And his kid's probably actually the one buying the boat. All he's doing is paying for it. But you gotta by asking those questions, you get them talking, you figure that stuff out. And now all of a sudden that gives you the whole realm of where you're going to go.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100% makes sense. Now, from a digital perspective, like let's move into like your coaching business. Like
Okay.
that'll probably be a lot of our audience too, is people who are in digital coaching and social media, kind of like Matt too, right?
Right.
So if you have like, how do you if you're selling high ticket coaching, let's say high ticket is anything above $5,000, like between 5 and 20 grand. What do you do to qualify those types of prospects? Because we live in this world where everybody gets shiny object syndrome. There's a lot of young entrepreneurs out there, and there's a lot of tire kickers out there. So the way you draw people in, oftentimes through ads, is downloading a PDF. Then you move them from downloading a PDF into value-based content so they get to know, like, and trust you over time. And then ultimately you want to get them into your coaching program if they're a good fit.
Okay, I download a PDF. What's the first thing, if I download the PDF, what the first thing am I going to do? Same thing
Probably.
I did last night. When that young lady said, okay, about the Wolf book, okay, all right, what did I do? I immediately go online and look him up.
Mm-hmm.
How credible is he?
Mm-hmm.
So give you an example. In Matt Plapp's case, okay, my son, okay, he sends me a PDF. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to Google Matt Plapp. And if I Google Matt Plapp, and he's all over the internet, and he's got all kinds of different comments, different things, and so I start investigating and doing some research, and went, oh my God, the guy is really good. Guess what? My next step is now I pull that further. I then contact Matt, and now Matt's already in my brain. Already in my brain. But if I'm, one of the things I tell people, it brings me to the coaching, which makes me better than I think anybody else, okay, that I coach against, okay, that's my competition, is I've been doing it for 50 years. I've been selling for 50 years. I've done everything, been everything. I've tried everything. I've either failed at it or been successful at everything you can think of. So guess what? If you're navigating how to do selling, you can say, hey, I'm going to go do this. So here's my experience. This may work, it may not work, but here's my experience with it. Here's the things that the pitfalls that you got to look at for. Here, give me an example. I hear all the time about, I'm going to go do a show. Okay, I'm going to put a booth in the show. Good. How do you put a booth in the show and make it effective? I've done probably 1,000 shows in my 50 years, both with Valspar, with insurance, and with my retail store. We would do 10 shows to 12 shows a year for 20 years. That multiply that out, okay? I've done a ton of shows. So guess what? If I've done a ton of shows, I can tell you exactly how to set your booth up so where it's good or bad. But the thing is, if I'm a coach and I'm simply reading from a book, okay, do I really have any clue how to do a show that's going to be effective? Hell no. But most of your coaches out there have no clue what they're coaching. Okay, they may know some of the basic structure, but how it's going to work. Things that some of the pitfalls, and that's where Matt comes in. Matt's done everything. He's worked for me for 10 years. When we had our retail store, he worked with us in the retail store, and I gave him a unfettered he could do anything he wanted. We gave him about $500,000 a year in a budget. Go do anything you want. So he's tried everything. So for him to be a coach, He's tried everything he's coaching. And I think in his stories, he talks about his digital marketing thing when our store, how it all, transpired. But the thing is, having someone like that who's done everything, now all of a sudden, if I do research on the guy, now it tells me whether this person's going to be a guy that's really going to help me. And that's the key. Can that guy really help me? What's my questions? Okay. Can that help me? And if I can, then I'm the best choice for you.
Right. So basically what you're saying is when you're delivering information to get prospects or suspects into your ecosystem, into your email list to get to know, like, and trust you, develop content and credibility on the internet. So when they do look you up, you are a choice and you don't get into that discounting the price situation. And then qualifying becomes a little bit more automated in the sense that they're already looking up to you. They're already kind of
They already know who you are.
Okay,
they're
cool.
already paying attention. Okay. And then I'll give me an example. Then it's not a question of my price. It's how fast can I get into your program?
Right. Yep. No, I agree, because like people like with the internet and with YouTube and videos and all this kind of stuff, people can form relationships. You, like Matt calls it, building your own radio station or TV station.
That's
Essentially,
just an awesome idea.
yeah. I mean, essentially you can right this second. I mean, you can film 30 videos right this today, by the end of today, with value content, throw it on a channel and distribute it to your team to get a bunch of views and likes and comments. And ultimately that can influence your sales channel right now.
Let me give you an example of what I'm referring to. Give me an example. I hate to use Matt as the example, but he's the best example that I know. Okay. I'm very active networking wise. I probably do as much networking as anybody that I know, and I probably know more people than anybody I know. Okay. I just been out there for 50 years in the same area. So guess what? If you've been 50 years in the same zip code and you've been in business for 50 years, if you don't know everybody everybody who's worth knowing, there's something wrong with you. Okay. And that means you've been hiding in some kind of box. So I'm out there networking a lot. I probably do 3 to 4 networking events almost every week. All right. I'll give you an example. I was at a networking event on Friday. There was 300 people at. My son's name came up, I'll bet you 15 times. Okay. I would walk up to somebody, I'm talking, he said, by the way, I saw your son's video last night. Oh, he says, I had one guy says, Dwayne, he says, I watch all your son's stuff. I heard that all afternoon. They weren't even talking about me. It could care less about me. They're talking about Matt. Okay. And it kind of humorous. Okay. Is they're all going, I guess the old acorn didn't fall too far from the tree. Well, that's probably true. But the thing is, he's doing his networking and getting his visibility online. And he's got everybody in Northern Kentucky and probably half the people in the United States watching his videos. And everybody I've ever coached just about in the last 5 years, all they talk about when I'm coaching is, hey, by the way, I saw your son's video yesterday, by the way, before we start our coaching session. Okay. And so guess what? That's the name of the game. Now, if I got an opportunity to get Matt to coach me, I'm paying for it, because guess what? Everybody knows who he is. He's got unbelievable reputation. Okay. He's got all kinds of videos out there. He's gotten all kinds of awards. Guess what? Is there anybody better to coach you? Matt. And so that's the key. So if I'm going to do coaching, or if I'm going to do something similar to that, the more I can get on the internet, especially if it's a digital marketing, the more I can get as you guys call, as you young kids call them, creds. Okay. Creds, or whatever you call it, creds. Now all of a sudden, guess what? All right. I'm there. And when I say I want to charge you $1,000 an hour, you're going, where do I pay?
Right. Now, so for the people that aren't as experienced and don't have as much like street cred and the content on the internet backing them up, maybe somebody just a few months to a year in the game, like how do you kind of coach them to become like sales closers? Because that's the number one thing is like people get disappointed. Like, I mean, we all hear it, like at the very end of your presentation, you think it's pristine, even the veterans do. And then it's like, oh, well, let me think about it, or a magical like objection. I know that.
Why do people say, let me think about it?
I think that they just don't have certainty. They're just not confident in themselves, and they have some kind of inner fear.
No, I disagree with that, but you're probably right a little bit. The reason why most people say, I want to think about it, is because you haven't given them enough information to make a decision. Okay. One of the key things I coach in one of my seminars I do is how to overcome objections. The
Mhm.
best way to overcome objections is to write down the most common objection you're going to hear on your particular service or product. You then overcome those objections up front. Okay, you handle those objections up front, because the only reason why I'm saying no is that you haven't given me enough reason to buy. And so when you've given me enough reason to buy, I'm all in. Especially if I'm thinking about it, in many cases you aren't sitting down with a qualified prospect. If I'm sitting down with a qualified prospect, I've done my homework, and I have handled all the objections up front, and I have created an environment where you want to buy, you're going to buy. Okay, unless you're not a qualified prospect. The number one objection I get is I can't afford it, because guess what? In some cases, okay, I'm talking to people who really can't afford it.
Mhm.
I'm hoping their boss is going to pay for it, okay, in their coaching. So the key thing is, okay, are you talking to a qualified prospect? And if a guy can't afford it and you're giving this presentation, shame on you. You haven't qualified your prospect. So if he wants to think about it, okay, the problem is that you haven't given him enough ammunition, okay, to buy it if he's a qualified prospect. Now here's one of the things here. The other thing is qualified prospects. One of the mistakes most people make is that they don't really work their target market. They get out of their target market and they're what I call doing a shotgun effect. What you want to do is work your target market. And that's why Matt is doing so well right now. His target market's restaurants. So he's going strictly after restaurants. Now, when we had our retail store, for instance, okay, we could sell you a bass boat, we could sell you a pontoon boat, we could sell you a ski boat, we could sell you a pleasure boat, we could sell you a little ringy dingy boat, okay, or we could sell you a motorhome, RV, pop-up camper, you name it. What did we market? Market strictly bass boats. That was our target market. We didn't spend a penny, okay, outside of our target market. We spent all of our $500,000 a year in advertising and marketing in our target market with bass boats. Sponsored pros, did all kinds of things, okay? And the thing is, okay, by doing that, when you get your target market, or you get your market to the point where everybody knows who you are and you got your creds, that will, it's like an octopus, it'll spread. All he has, all these little fingers are going out, and your name gets known by everybody because you did a phenomenal job of creating energy in your target market. The key, just give an example. I always use as an example. If you got oil that's really cold, when you pour it on the floor, where's it go? Nowhere. Oil on hot, it goes everywhere because it got a lot of energy. So the key to the thing is you got to create energy in your target market. That will help you then create the credibility to, and when people start talking, they may not be in your target market, but they're talking about you. And what you want to do is you want to get them talking about you. Then that energy will go all over the place. And when it starts going all over the place, guess what? Now your credibility goes way up.
Right.
People have a tendency to do shotgun approaches, try to create credibility with everybody. No. Create credibility with just in your target market, and it will take off on its own.
I'm glad you brought that point up, because there's definitely riches and niches in being the expert versus the jack of all trades. Because like you mentioned, like you can be the referred source. Like for instance, I do a lot of real estate with my background working from realtor.com. And then I've created a niche targeting realtors. So I do get referrals all the time, even from like the Billie Jean team and like
Right,
Doug.
because you've worked your target market.
Yeah.
And whenever you work your target market, you create a lot of energy. Okay.
100%.
And the key to the thing is getting people talking about you when you're not there. Okay.
That's
If I can get you people
good
talking about
thing
me when I'm
you
not there, okay, that energy explodes. I'll give you an example. I got a guy that I'm coaching up in Boston. Okay. And he made a comment to me the other day. He says, I got 3 referrals last week. I can't figure out where they came from. I said, let's dissect that a minute. Where did you go last week? Where did you go the last 2 weeks? Who did you talk to? Started going through. He found out the referrals came from people just talking about him at a restaurant. Because someone brought up, hey, by the way, I need this situation. Who do you know? And the guy's, hey, you need to call so-and-so. And his name they started talking about him. Guess what? That would have never happened had he not been out networking in his target market and creating the energy where people talk about him when he's not around.
Right. That's incredible. Yeah, no, I mean the niche thing is great because then also you can scale the business in anybody you could train people are because if you're dealing with like a restaurant owner, a dentist, a lawyer, a doctor, it's not easy for the back end staff to be able to adapt as quickly as the owner of that marketing agency because the marketing agency like you or me or Matt or whoever it may be, we can kind of think quickly, come up with a solution. We're processing a lot of information up front and we're evaluating before we see a client. We can kind of know in our head mentally what they need to solve. But then when you actually convert somebody, it makes it a lot more challenging for fulfillment when you're constantly have a different process by bespoke to each client.
Exactly. Exactly. But the key is that, you know, one of the things I hear all the time is, you know, how do I find quality? First of all, you got to be in your target market. Okay. If you're in your target market, okay, and you're doing a lot of visibility, your qualified prospects will come out of the woodwork because then you're not talking to people who are suspects. You're talking to all the time people who are probably going to be qualified prospects. And so then it's a lot easier to qualify them then because you're in your target market.
Yeah, no, exactly. Now, one of the hot topics that is out there right now is hiring salespeople, so you can fire yourself out of the business, so you can work on your business versus just in it. Do you have any kind of tips or tricks on how to hire and qualify sales reps? And my second part of the question is going to be incentivizing them, whether it's salary or solely commission based.
Well, you're talking to an old school guy. So to me, I didn't hire anybody. I tried not to hire anybody unless I was paying them on commissions. And the reason why, if I'm as good as I'm as advertised, why do I got to get a salary? Okay, if I'm good, I'm going to make more money because my philosophy has always been is this: if I got to pay you a salary, I'm the one making the investment. Okay, so if I'm making the investment, I'm the one that's going to reap the rewards. If you hire on commission, then he's making the investment, and if he's good, he's the one that's going to reap the rewards. Because I hear all the time, well, the guy's paying me a salary and not getting enough money for what I'm worth. Well, guess what? Who paid the money up front to get you into the business? What do I get out of it? Okay, I got to get my money out of it. Okay, so I'm going to reap the awards. So I've never worked on a salary in my life. I've always worked on, okay, you pay me what I'm worth, and I'm damn good. So if I'm damn good, you don't got to worry about me getting a salary. Okay, I get whatever I get. Okay, and I've always been very, very successful. So I don't care. But the thing is, most kids today all want to get some kind of salary. Well, that's fine. But a rule I always tell people is this: never pay a person a salary that they can live on. If you got to pay them some kind of stipend, okay, or stipend or whatever up front, pay them so they can't live on it. So that way they have an incentive to make something happen.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing too is if my first thing I'm out of you and I'm talking to you and you want me to hire you and pay you a salary up front, I'm thinking twice whether I even want to hire you because all of a sudden you're trying looking for a paycheck. If you're looking for a paycheck, because I'm looking to me, sales is a career. It's as much a profession as being a doctor is. And if you master the profession of being sales, okay, you got that's your occupation, that's your career. If I'm simply looking for a paycheck, go find somebody else. To find great salespeople or to find people to work for you, to me, it's all about networking. I get about 3 times a week at networking events, people walk up to me saying, "Hey, I'm looking for a position. I just left my company or whatever." There's all kinds of people out there that aren't working, okay. But if they're out networking, you're going to come across them, and they're at networking events everywhere. Okay, the biggest place I find them is the Chamber of Commerce. Okay, if you go to the Chamber of Commerce events, okay, and you get involved in the chamber, you're going to run across a lot. And the other thing too is, I hate to say this, maybe I go to the Chamber of Commerce and I steal somebody. If I get somebody that's really a good networker, yeah, hello, you better be a good employer because I might take them.
Right.
Okay, and that happens a lot. I mean, give you an example. One of the guys that's a good friend of mine, he's just changed. Okay, he was working for a smaller company, and now he's working for a gigantic company, and they're paying him a fortune because they found out how good he was. So they stole him away, and the small company's going, "What the hell just happened?" Well, guess what? You weren't doing enough things to make the guy happy.
Mm-hmm.
So the bigger company said, "Hey, we'll pay you whatever you want. You pay us we'll give you a big time commission."
Speaking
So
of commissions, like how do you determine the size of the commission that you should be paying a salesperson? Is there
Well,
any
it
formula?
depends. Well, in many industries, okay, you normally pay them half of whatever the opposite of fixed cost is. In other words, to give you an example, if I'm running an insurance business, all right, okay, the commissions that say it's X percent or X of whatever. So I'm going to give you half whatever I make, okay. In some companies, you can go 30%, some go 40%, some go 50%. Depends on exactly how much work's involved. If I'm giving you a desk, I'm giving you an office space, I'm giving you your business cards, okay, I'm paying for the advertising, whatever, I'm going to lower, the commission is going to get lower. The more things that you put into the thing, for instance, if I'm paying you on a commission basis where you got to buy your own business cards, you got to pay for your own telephone, you got to pay for your own car expenses, and you got to pay for this, that, and everything else, okay, now then my commission is going to be higher. So it depends on what things you're providing versus what things he's providing or she's providing, okay. Now I want to say another thing. You had on one of your things was on closing. Okay. So when you get to closing, I got some stuff I want to say on that too.
Yes, let's do it. Actually, before we do that, let me get one more question from somebody else that asked on Facebook. Or since we're on this topic about salespeople, a salesperson is born or grown into it?
Grown into it. What I say, the reason why I say that is this. Okay. I majored in psych in college. My major area was operant conditioning, which is learned behavior. Everything in this world is learned except for two things. Okay. Dying and fear.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so everything else is learned. Okay. So, I might have been a natural born salesman, as my mom always used to give. My mom always called it, I had the ability to talk, okay, or to speak. And I talked a lot. But the thing is, okay, when I got out of college, the company I was with, Valspar, they sent me to several sales schools. So I learned from Dale Carnegie, I learned from Zig Ziglar, I learned from all the big names, okay. I went to all their schools. I went to, I think, 6 or 7 different schools, okay, on how to become a salesperson. Okay. My thing is this: everybody can become a salesperson. One of the best salespeople I met, okay, someone I actually trained about 9 years ago, and there was a lady that when she came to one of my classes, I started coaching her. She could not stand up in front of one person even and talk without crying. I mean, she would just go absolutely bonkers. After I worked with her for a year, I had her doing 2-hour seminars, okay, and she was selling like you would not believe. The reason why is it's all about self-confidence, okay, all about developing, getting out of your comfort zone. And actually, I'm doing a webinar today at noon on how to get out of your comfort zone. Okay, the key to the thing is you got to expand and be willing to make changes. Most people aren't willing to change, so you got to be willing to change. If you embrace change, okay, then you got to learn to speak. Once you learn to speak, okay, then and learn to communicate, learning when to say what, okay, and starting getting self-confidence in what you say people are going to listen to because of what your feedback has been on other things. Learning how to structure yourself, learning how to create agendas, learning how to have good time management. You start doing all those things, okay, next thing you know, you can sell. One of the best salesmen I ever made was a guy when I was with Valspar, and he was the most laid back guy I've ever seen in my life. He didn't talk unless you almost had to hit him over the head. But guess what? When he talked, people listened. And he tore them up. Okay? Because he had his own style, but he understood exactly, and he said what he wanted to say when he wanted to say, but he's a great listener. And so he reminds me almost like you ever watched NCIS with Gibbs? Okay? Yeah. He doesn't say a whole lot. And guys will sit there and talk to him, and he doesn't say anything. And I go, hey, thanks for talking, giving me the great idea. He didn't do anything. He let them talk, and they talked themselves into their own idea. So you don't really got to talk. But the thing is, okay, so salesmen really aren't born. It's all about a learned behavior, willing to adapt your personality and adapt your style. Okay, when I was younger, I was afraid to meet people, but now I'm in the world's, I'm networking everywhere. But the thing is, why? Is because I learned to adapt to that. Even though I like to talk, I didn't really like meeting people. I was scared to death. Okay, they're gonna say something to beat me up because when I was a kid, I stuttered. All the way through high school, I couldn't talk. So guys would actually make fun of me like you wouldn't believe. Okay. So that's why I majored in psychology in college, was to figure out why I stuttered. Once I figured it out, I then corrected the stuttering problem, and then I could talk, and I wouldn't be afraid of meeting people. So now I talk to everybody. But guess what? I had to learn how to stop stuttering. So everybody's got handicaps. Everybody's got a problem. The question is, are you doing things to correct that situation and to overcome it and make and engage and encourage and embrace change? Does that answer the question?
Yeah, 100%. And I was in a similar situation, just to add on the learned behavior side. I didn't like to order my own McDonald's. I was a pretty shy person growing up through high school, even in college. And then luckily my very first job out of school was in sales. So I got a intensive training for like 2 or 3 days with a guy who owned a credit card processing company, which is a pretty hardcore sales process.
That's cold calling heaven, baby.
Oh yeah, I mean, when I got my lead sheet, as they called it, it was a DBA list, and it said call, and I'd never called before. And then they trained me on 7 steps to a sale, which was an incredible framework at the time for that type of sale. But it gave me some chops. It gave me the ability to kind of start my own company. So I mean, learning that one career path just future. But yeah, learn behavior. It's 100%. Then it comes down to, do you want to be an athlete of business or that craft, and just practice, practice, practice. Kind of like this conversation here. I'm learning a lot right now. And that's why I love having these conversations. It's just constant learning, sponging things up, writing things down, and executing.
One thing about, you said practice, practice, practice. I'm gonna say something. If they get nothing out of this entire session, remember this one sentence, okay? It's Nick Saban said this, okay? They interviewed him about 3 years ago, and they asked him why Alabama is so good. He says, "We don't practice until we get it right. We practice until we can't get it wrong."
That's great. Yep.
Okay, I have put that everywhere, and when I speak, I always say, because guess what? People sometimes will practice until they get it right. Well, so you got it right one time. Practice until you can't get it wrong. So it actually becomes part of you. So you eat, sleep, and drink it.
I just wrote that down. That's a great line. Don't be surprised if you see that on social media today. I'll tag you.
No problem. But if nothing else, that people get, when you put it out there, if they get nothing else, practice till you can't get it wrong. And I'm giving credit to Nick Saban, even though I'm not a big Alabama fan. I saw his interview and I was really impressed with that.
Yeah, no, I love that. And just, I mean, if you want to be good at sales, I mean, you got to focus on going around salespeople, listening to salespeople. You got free information out there like this video when we publish it, and also YouTube and everything like that. So you can definitely have the assets at your disposal. And then you have coaches like Mr. Plapp here that can also help accelerate and give you a shortcut to the end path you're looking for. Now we're going to move into what, closing? Was that the next topic?
Yeah, to me, closing, and I talked a little bit about it before when you were saying about discounting and what have you, but closing is all about know, like, and trust. Okay, even though you're networking, you still want to create know, like, and trust, and you want to get referrals and trusting and know. But think of the same token when you're selling. The person's going to buy from me if you create what I call a buying environment. Get out of the selling environment, get into the buying environment. What I mean by that is this: if I have what you want, you're going to buy it. Okay, the only question is, from whom am I going to buy it? Perfect example. Even though the internet was out there when we had our retail store, and guys would walk in my store, and they'd already have, if they were buying a bass boat, that was our main business, okay? They were buying a bass boat. They'd have a picture of the bass boat. They actually bought it off the internet, okay? And they had actually, the website we had allowed you to color it in, it allowed you to put your options on it, and you could then print that whole thing out with the options, the colors, everything you wanted on this boat. So these guys would bring this into my store. Why? Why would they bring the picture of the boat they want in my store? They can buy the boat from anywhere in the country. They can buy it from me online. Why are they bringing the boat into the store? Because they want to, and the last thing is, whom are they buying it from? The know, like, and trust. If I have what you want, I create the buying environment, okay? I then I want to buy it from someone I know, like, and trust. So when you're doing your sales pitch, okay, your whole deal is to get the person to start to like you and create the credibility, and he trusts you. They will then buy because they're already in front of you. I used to, when I sold life insurance, I used to go to guys' houses when I first started. And my thought was this, and I had figured this out, okay? I don't know whether because I was so smart or I just was too dumb not to figure it out or whatever. But I figured it out. If I'm sitting in front of you at your house, why am I sitting there? I'm sitting there because you want to buy life insurance. Why? I mean, you didn't need a tiddlywinks partner. You didn't need someone to break beer with you while you're watching the football game. They didn't even know who you were. But I'm sitting in front of your house with you and your wife at the kitchen table. Why am I sitting there? Because you want to buy life insurance. So why am I going into a sales pitch? You already want to buy. The only question is, what are you going to buy and from whom are you going to buy it? So my whole sales pitch was, I figured this out. I would take a blank piece of paper. I would then spend the first half an hour just talking Mickey Mouse stuff. I would, if I was sitting in your house, I'd look at what's on the walls. Look what's in your kitchen. Whose pictures are there? Did you have golf clubs sitting there? Did you have a bicycle sitting there? Okay. Do you have pictures of your kids everywhere, or pictures of your wife, or pictures of your husband? What's on the walls? Whatever's on the walls, that's what we talked about. So if you had a picture of your kid bending over on a 4-point stance playing football, oh my God, your kid plays football. Yeah. Tell me, what's he play? I'd get them talking about their kid. Their kid was not, guess what? Within 20 minutes, I'm their best friend. Because guess what? What do people like to do? They like to talk about things that are important to them. So I let them do that. When I came to the point where I thought I had created enough rapport with them, where I created enough, just where I got my credibility to the point where they liked me, okay, and they were willing to buy, I would simply say one thing. I came tonight to apply for the job to be your insurance agent. Okay. Now, obviously, you wanted to buy insurance. Okay. Okay. How much did you want to spend want to invest on the insurance policy? They would give me a number. The minute they gave me the number, guess what? I was done. The close was done. I would simply at that point slide the application in front of me and say, sign here and give me a check. You know what my closing ratio was?
You want me to guess?
Yeah.
Shoot, I don't. All right, I'm gonna go with 35%.
95.
Holy Jesus, I was off. Wow, that's
Because
incredible.
guess what?
Yeah.
I allowed them to buy. I didn't sell to them.
Right.
I mean, they already want to buy life insurance. The only question is from whom they're going to buy it from. You're going to buy it from the guy they like.
95%. That's incredible.
And to show you how good that ratio was and how accurate it was,
Yeah.
when I first started with Prudential, the first year, that was my training to learn how to sell insurance. Okay. And one of the guys, I was number one. I was number one in the agency at the time, and I was top 20 of rookies in the country. And Prudential in those days was hiring about 25,000 guys that are rookies, and I was number 20 in the country in rookies. All right. So one of the guys walked in my office and he was bitching about his closing ratio, and he said, "Well, what's your closing ratio?" I said, "About 95%." And I was a big person. I tracked everything. Okay. That to me, that's really, really important, is understanding you got to track everything. If you track everything, you can see what you're doing right, what you're doing wrong, correct the ones you do wrong, and then accent the things you do right. So I was tracking everything. So he says, "There's no way." I said, "I'll tell you what we'll do." I says, "You give me your prospects, you take my prospects, and we'll see who still closes the most." I tell you, I'll bet my paycheck against your paycheck. And at the time, I was making a 6-figure paycheck. I said, "I'll bet my paycheck against your paycheck." He says, "Well, I ain't got a whole lot of money." I said, "Well, you got a chance to win some big money if you get mine." He says, "Okay, we're on." The end of the week, I closed 95% of his people. He says, "How the hell do you do that?" I said, "I let them buy. I don't sell." He says, "Well, I closed 2 out of the 10. I said, "Good job. Got 20%. I said, "Because you have no clue." The thing is, you got to let people buy. And the thing, and the closing ratio is all about understanding why people buy. They buy when they feel comfortable with you. And as if you're sitting in their house, they already want to buy insurance. So let them buy. I mean, I used to love these guys. They'd walk in their house and they'd get all this capital needs analysis, and they started asking all these stupid questions. And the guys got, and I'll never forget my first sale. And the guy's name was the sales manager was a guy named Wilson. And your first sale, you had to go out with a manager. That was the rule. So we're out there, okay, and he goes into the house and he goes through this whole thing, blood on my hands, and he's got the capital needs analysis out there. Shows a guy he needs $1 million in insurance. The guy's making about 20 grand a year. Hello, I mean, he can't even comprehend $1 million, let alone, okay, sell him $1 million. And the guy and David, and he's beating the heck out of this guy. He's just beating him up. Okay, and finally the guy's he's never going to close the guy. So we get back in the car, and no close, right? Get back in the car, and I'm looking at David. I said, that may be the worst sales presentation I've ever seen in my entire life. He said, what do you mean? I said, you're a complete jerk. I wouldn't have bought from you. I said, you pissed the guy off. You pissed me off. You pissed everybody off. He says, oh, you can do any better. I said, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll bet you lunch tomorrow I can go back in there and close the guy. He says, he's already pissed off. I says, not at me. I said, I didn't say a word. You're the one that beat him to death. Okay, I said, I can go back in there right now and I'll close the guy. And I says, and here's the deal. I'll close the guy and I'll buy your lunch tomorrow. And I don't want to ever see you again. I said, because I don't need your help. I said, you're the world's worst sales guy. Okay. So I go back up to the guy's front door and I knock on the door. Guy answers the door and he says, what do you want? I said, I really apologize for the idiot was just here. I said, I know you wanted to buy some life insurance. I said, and we didn't do a very good job of getting you to get to that point. But I know you wanted to buy some life insurance. Do you mind telling me exactly how much you wanted to buy or how much you can afford to spend? He's like, I can afford to spend $25 a month. I said, then sign here. He signed it, gave me a check, walked back to the car. He says, I don't want to ever see you again.
And you got free. Well, you had to see him if you got the free lunch.
Well, I don't know, but the thing is, I says, I had to see him every day because he was my manager. But the thing, I says, you're never going on another sales appointment with me ever again. But the thing is, same token, he didn't let the guy buy. He was trying to force feed him. And people do that all the time in sales. I belong to a BNI chapter, okay? And there's 3 guys in the chapter right now. Okay, I saw on Thursday, they got up and did a sales pitch. Well, guess what? I'm looking for referral partners. If I'm looking to sell you, why am I sitting in the BNI chapter? Get your 60-second down where you're referring and educating people, not selling to them. And people with tendency, all salesmen think they got to be selling all the time. But guess what? Let people buy. People will buy. Okay? Let them buy. And the more you let them buy, the more they become know, like, and trust. And they'll send you referrals because now you're their buddy.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, we don't let them buy. But going through the close, okay, stop selling. Create a relationship. Get them so they actually like you. Because if you're sitting in front of them, if you're sitting in front of them and they're actually a prospect, they already want what you have. And they need what you have and they can afford it. So the only question in front of you is, whom are they going to buy it from?
Mm-hmm.
And if you create an environment where they can buy, they will.
Well, I love this. I can go on for hours longer, but I know you have a webinar too.
That's not until noon. I got all day.
Okay.
All I'm doing is watching the highlights of my Bears getting beat yesterday.
Oh man, sorry to hear the Bears are out of the playoffs.
Well, I do have one. I have one substitution though. I'm a big Louisville fan, and guess who plays quarterback for the Baltimore Ravens?
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, so we last week we watched the Bears game on one TV, and we watched the Baltimore game on the other TV. Okay, because Lamar is going to be MVP, and he's from Louisville, and people from Louisville are going nuts.
Yeah, what an incredible athlete that guy is. I mean, what he's done this year.
Unbelievable. And he's very, very humble. He's very soft spoken. And I wish they hire somebody though to help him with his speech because he needs a speech coach. But he's very humble, very nice, easygoing kid. Okay, and Matthew pointed out something the other day, and it kind of cracked me up. Okay, they announced it on TV the other night. Was that remember Warwick Dunn that played for?
Yeah, he was a Florida State guy. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Well, he has a whole thing down in Florida where he buys houses for people that are mothers with fatherless homes for needy kids. Guess who one of the homes was he built a house for?
Oh man, Lamar Jackson.
Lamar Jackson's mom. So Lamar Jackson loves Warwick Dunn, and they were announcing that on TV. How neat is that?
That's incredible. Yeah, no, the guy definitely has class to him. Heisman Trophy. I was watching the Heisman Trophy ceremonies over the weekend, and I think it was like quarterbacks with 3,000 pass yards and 1,000 rushing seasons. He had it twice out of five people in history.
Yeah, he's in the NFL. He's already. I mean, I looked up last night. Look up the rushing leaders for the AFC.
I did the
He's
same
third.
thing.
He's
I,
third.
I saw
I
that.
mean, and you got two running backs, and then you got a quarterback. And the way it's going, they're only about 100 yards ahead of him. So he could actually end up winning the rushing title for the NFL, okay, and the passing title because he got more touchdowns than anybody else. And they were talking yesterday. He's throwing the ball average of 20 to 25 times a game. Everybody else was at about 50. Okay, he's throwing it 25 times a game, and he has the most touchdowns. Like he had 5 touchdowns on Thursday night, and he had 17 passes.
That's efficiency right there.
Oh, unbelievable. Quarterback rating of 105. Hello.
Right. No, that's incredible.
So anyway,
Just
so I got something to root for.
yeah, no, that's cool. Any last words of advice for anybody watching this from qualifying, converting, or hiring?
There's 4 things that I coach, and these are the most important 4 things. Okay, if you're going to be in sales. Okay, one is you got to create some visibility. Okay,
Mhm.
you got to get out there and you got to meet the people so you can create the energy so people know who you are. You got to become a known entity. And if you have a business, okay, whether you're doing it locally or on the internet, you got to be known. You got to create the visibility. And like I said, probably the best I've seen so far is Matt. Matt's phenomenal. Okay. Number 2, you got to know what to say. You got to have good communication skills. Know what to say and when to say. So communication to me is a huge thing because if I've got good education skills, I'm not selling, I'm educating, and I'm creating relationships instead of just out there mouthing off stupid stuff. Okay. Third thing is I got to have relationships. To have a sustainable business over a long period of time, you got to have relationships. That's why God made country clubs in the old days. Okay. All your country clubs are for the same thing. Guys created relationships,
Mhm.
period. Okay. That's how you got a relationship. You play golf with everybody in the country club. Okay. And you had relationships. So, you got to create some relationships if you want to have a sustainable business. And the fourth one is this, okay, is you got to wrap all 3 of those things around one topic, strategy. Whether you got visibility, communications, or relationships, you got to have a strategy. You got to strategize how you're going to. So if I'm going to get visible, how am I going to get visible? Who am I going to get visible with? What avenues am I going to get? What's my target market? All those strategy sessions, okay? When I talk to people, they'll say, hey, I met so and so, and I think he's going to be a great referral source, or he's going to be a great prospect, or whatever. Great. What's your next move? Huh? What's your next move? I hadn't thought about that. You got to have strategy. Whether you're creating a relationship, give me an example. You're going to go give a speech or you're going to go to a networking event. What are you going to say? Have you sat down? Okay, what group am I going to go see? So if I'm going to a health group, am I going to talk about kitchen cabinets? No. You got to talk about and communicate where the group that you're at and the people that you want to meet. All that stuff is all strategy. So whether you're visibility, whether you're communicating, or whether you're creating relationships, it's all about strategy and how are you going to do it, okay? And what's your system? If you're going to grow your business, okay, in an efficient way and over a short period of time, you got to create some strategies. But you got to get visible, got to communicate, got to create relationships, and then you got to strategize how you're going to do the 3. That's what I coach.
Awesome. So, how do people get in touch with you?
Dwayne at totalrevenuecoaching.com, or you can call me on my phone number, 859-243, no, excuse me, 859-240-6428. But, Dwayne at totalrevenuecoaching.com, or just go on Facebook, okay, and pull my name up, okay, and you can connect with me. The other thing to do is this. I am the only person in the entire country with my name. I'm the only Dwayne Plapp in the entire country. So if you go in and just Google Dwayne Plapp, on the right-hand side of the column, everything from my email address to my website to my phone number, anything you ever want to know about me is right there. So if you just simply Google Dwayne Plapp, it comes up, baby. And I'm on the internet. Now you can see my videos and anything else you want. And I got
Wow.
three 3 books I've written, so you can buy one of the books on Amazon.
Awesome. Well, hey, thank you so much for taking part of your morning to spend it with me here today, and everybody else who's going to be watching this.
Well, I had a great time, and I guess go Lakers. I mean, they're 17-3 right now.
Well, no, much more than that. I think they're a little bit higher than that. I think they're like in the 23. I think they're a little deeper in the.
Oh, 'cause I looked the other day, it said 17-3, but maybe you're right. They may
Yeah.
have played 3 games since I looked, or 4
Yeah,
games.
they've won 14 road games in a row. So
So they got the bro on their team now.
Yep, exactly. Awesome. Well, hey, have a great rest of your day, and thank you so much for your time this morning.
All right, you have to do, and thank you very much. And if you want, send me the recording. I'd love to have the recording.
I will, no, 100%. I'm just going to do a little bit of editing, and then I'll send it over to you.
Dynamite. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Bye now.
Bye.